is removable orthodontic appliance. Let us see what are the important concepts involved here. First of all, students, let us see what are removable appliances. Removable appliances in orthodontics are the orthodontic devices which can be taken out by the patient for cleaning and which are designed to apply forces to the teeth by means of spring, screws, and other mechanical component. The advantage of the removable orthodontic appliance is that you can do the tipping movement, patient can remove it, clean it. The advantage of the removable orthodontic appliance, definitely the tipping movement you can do, you can remove it, the patient can remove it for cleaning of teeth, and the less conspicuous, less visible, can be undertaken by general practitioner without any adequate training, and it's manufactured in the lab, chair side time is less, inexpensive. But disadvantage is that with the removable appliance, only simple malocclusion can be corrected, multiple rotations cannot be corrected, uncooperative patients, they may not just wear it, multiple tooth movements cannot be done, only one tooth movement at one time, and cases other than first premolar extractions cannot be treated easily. So the indication of the removable appliance is growth modifications during mixed dentition, limited tipping, rotation if it is required for the arch expansion, and as a retainers after the fixed treatment. The component of removable appliance, student, is the retentive component, the base plate, and the active components. So retentive component is whereby the displacement of the appliance is resisted. So clasp is any hook or band attached to the natural tooth and it is used to anchor a partial denture or an orthodontic appliance. The name clasp means to embrace, and the clasp are the retentive component of your orthodontic appliances. So a clasp should be unobtrusive, it should not impinge, should have close contact to the tooth, should be usable in both deciduous and permanent dentition, adequate retention. Clasp should not create any active force on the anchor tooth. It should be rigid, easy to fabricate, and not interfere in the growth of jaws and eruption of teeth. Uses is to secure the appliance in position. Clasp will prevent rolling of appliance to resist forces of displacement and provide retention and anchorage, also for engaging the elastic. So clasp engage into the undercut area. Two types of undercuts we know, the buccal or lingual cervical undercut or mesial or distal proximal undercuts. If you can look at the picture here, this is the circumferential clasp, also known as C clasp or 3/4 clasp, because it's covering around 3/4, more than 180 degree of the tooth. Simple clasp used to engage the buccocervical undercut, but you cannot use this clasp when it comes to partially erupted tooth. You can look at the picture. This is your circumferential clasp. Another clasp we have is the Jackson clasp. It engages both buccocervical undercuts, also known as full clasp. Simple design, adequate retention. This is the triangular clasp. You can see the picture here. Used between adjacent posterior teeth, and it's for additional retention. Then we have the Adams clasp. That's a very popular clasp we have, also known as Liverpool or universal clasp or modified arrowhead. The parts of the Adams clasp is the bridge of it, the arrowhead, and the retentive arms of it. The Adams clasp, which is the most widely used clasp we have, it engages the distobuccal and mesiobuccal undercut. Does not separate teeth like an arrowhead clasp though. Any tooth you can use the Adams clasp, both deciduous and permanent dentition. Even on semi-erupted tooth you can use it. No specialized pliers are required and can be modified as needed. But with the Adams clasp, you can have unwanted palatal tipping if it gets activated, may lead to elongation of the tooth if it is fitting very tightly, can be repaired only if fractured through the arrowheads, and cannot be given on proclined anteriors. There are some modifications of the Adams clasp you can see here. This is the Adams clasp with a single arrowhead. You have Adams clasp with a J hook. You have Adams clasp with the additional arrowhead. This is the Adams clasp you can see with the distal extension here. Double clasp on the maxillecentral when it is encompassing two teeth together. Now next one we have is a Schwartz clasp. It is designed by C.M. Schwartz, oldest and for considerable amount of time most generally used clasp. Advantages: arrowhead bent towards the papilla to engage the undercut. You can use it for both deciduous or permanent teeth, but it is not easy to fabricate and can be only used on posterior teeth. These are the disadvantages. Then we have the Dusing clasp. The Dusing clasp has a simple design, engages buccal undercut of the molars. You can see here. Half clasp can also be constructed. Advantage is bending towards the tooth or the undercut area. Then we have a south end clasp, spans two adjacent margins of anterior teeth. You can see here. Ball end clasp, you can see here. This is the ball end clasp. Wire having a knob or ball-like structure on one end. This is the ball end clasp. Here also you can see here. It utilizes the interdental undercuts. indicated when additional retention is required. Then we have a delta clasp too, similar to Adam's clasp in principle. Retentive loops were triangular in shape, hence look like a delta. Engages interdental undercut. It can be used in twin block appliance. Advantage is hold retentive loops and twist inwards and bending towards interdental undercut as it emerges from acrylic. You can see some of the pictures here. The design of the closed loop does not open up with repeated removal, less subject to breakage and provide excellent retention on the lower premolar. This is for your delta clasp, suitable for use on the most posterior teeth. Now this is the Crozat clasp. You can see the picture. Along with the U clasp on a straight wire is soldered on the base a crescent. So this is a U clasp, and along with that there is one more piece that is soldered at the base, a straight wire. Strong retention is possible. Now if you look at the active components that you can engage with your removable appliance to bring active tooth movement: labial bow, spring, elastic and screws. Labial bow is an essential component of removable orthodontic appliance. It can be either active like in a retainer or it can be passive too. The principal function of the bow is to retrude the anterior teeth when it acts actively and can also be used for retentive purposes. If you look at this, the parts of labial bow will be the incisor segment, the vertical loops that you are going to see here, the occlusal or crossover section and the retentive ends. We have different types of labial bow like short labial bow, long labial bow, Roberts retractor, reverse labial bow, Begg's labial bow, Mills retractor, fitted labial bow, high labial bow with apron spring and split labial bow. Now first of all, let's see what is a short labial bow. It's used for retraction of anteriors, anterior spacing with proclination or for overjet reduction. But for placing this short labial bow, there should be a good contact between the canines and the premolar. So you can see here, this is the short labial bow we have with the loop. You can see in this picture is on the canine area. Vertical segment starts from the mesial third of the canine and should be perpendicular to the incisor segment. You can see the picture. Retentive end adapted on the lingual or the palatal side, and activation is by compressing the U loop by 1 mm. Long labial bows, they are used for anterior space closure, for overjet reduction, closure of the space distal to the canine as a retaining device at the end of fixed therapy, or guidance of canine during canine retraction using palatal retractor. This is a long labial bow. You can see the picture going all the way here on the premolar up to the premolar. The fabrication of the long labial bow is same as short labial bow, but the occlusal wire passes between two premolars. It's activated by compressing the U loop. Now this is the Roberts retractor. It is suitable only for retraction of 4 incisors following retraction of canine. The flexible bow, it is activated by closing the coil or giving the palatal bend at the emergence of the coil. Reverse labial bow, it's for retaining the tooth position of a minor tooth movement. You can see this is the reverse labial bow that we have. So loops are placed distal to the canine and free ends of the U loop are adapted occlusally between the premolar and the canine. Now we talk about the Begg's labial bow. So let's see student, the Roberts retractor. Roberts retractor is suitable only for retraction of 4 incisors following the retraction of canine. So using a flexible bow here, inserted into stainless steel tubing to give support on either end. This is your Roberts retractor. You can see the picture here. Here the labial segment of wire is placed at the junction of incisal and middle third, and a coil of 3 mm internal diameter is placed mesial to the canine. It's activated by closing the coil or giving palatal bend at the emergence of the coil. Now look at reverse labial bow. Reverse labial bow, you can see the picture here. For retaining tooth position for minor tooth movement, loops are placed distal to the canine here, and the free ends of the U loop are adapted occlusally between the premolar and the canine. So the U loop is opened, that results in lowering of the labial bow in the incisor region. That's how you activate it. Now Begg's labial bow is wrap around the globe bow. It is used as a retainer after fixed ortho. You can see this is the Begg's labial bow that we have. It consists of a labial wire that extends till the last erupted molar. U loop is incorporated in the premolar and the molar. You can see the picture here. This is a U loop to close the band spaces. Mills retractor, it is also called as extended labial bow. It's mainly used for large overjet of alignment of irregular incisors. You can see the design here for the Mills retractor. This labial bow has extensive looping of the wire as to increase the flexibility and the range of action. But patient acceptance is not very good and you have a complex design here. Now this is the fitted labial bow. If you can see the picture, it is actually encompassing the exact contours of the teeth. It acts like a retainer. It is used to secure the incisor firmly after they have been rotated. High labial bow with the apron springs. Used in retraction of one or more teeth, large overjet, it is very similar to Robert's retractor, highly flexible, light force. You can see, this is the retractor we have with the apron spring. This is activated by bending the upright arm of the apron springs towards the teeth, 3 mm activation at a time. This is a split labial bow. You can see it is split in the center. Used for anterior retraction for closure of midline diastema. Now springs are most commonly used active elements we have. Springs should deliver optimal forces, should possess high degree of elasticity, and should have long range of action. The intrinsic property is to have a good yield strength. Extrinsic property is based on length of wire and thickness of wire. The amount of activation 0.5 mm. Springs are classified as per their based on direction of tooth movement. So we have springs for mesiodistal tooth movement, labiolingual tooth movement, expansion of arches, and based on nature of support, you have self-supported spring, guided spring, auxiliary spring. Based on the presence of loop of helix, you have single cantilever spring with the active arm, coil, and retentive arm. You can see the picture here. So it has active arm, this is the coil, and this is the retentive arm that we have. We have double cantilever spring or the Z spring. You can look at the picture here. This is the Z spring we have. Spring is perpendicular to the palatal surface of the tooth and indicated where incisors are to be proclined. Like you have a single tooth cross bite, you can use the Z spring. Activation is opening by both the coils. T spring, buccal movement of premolar and the molar. If you can look at the picture here, this is the T spring. The activation is by pulling the spring away from the base plate. You have a coffin spring made in 2 segments large enough to make contact with all the teeth to be moved. You can look at the picture here. This is the coffin spring we have. So spring stands 1 meter away from the soft tissue. So it is used for transverse arch expansion, unilateral cross bite with lateral mandibular displacement. By using coffin spring, you can have differential expansion. Canine retractors type of spring used to move canine in distal direction. Based on location, you can have buccal retractor, palatal, helix or loop, push type or pull type based on the mode of action. So this is buccal self-supported canine retractor. Buccally placed canine is to be moved palatally and distally. Then you can use this canine retractor. The coil is just distal to long axis. You are activating it by 1 mm, distally by closing the loop. Then you have buccal canine retractor supported, reverse loop canine retractor in shallow sulcus area, activation by opening the coil. U-loop buccal canine retractor, that's also used in shallow sulcus. Activation free end is cut by 1 mm and readapted. This is a palatal canine retractor. You can see canine placed palatally requiring distobuccal movement. You can use this retractor.